Something cool happens when you plug this Legator Ninja in. Is that little light worth about 1,800 bucks though? Stick around and find out. So if you follow my channel and seen any of my reviews, you will know by now that I break these into 3 sections. It's construction, playability, and sound. And I usually don't get to do a lot of these factory-built style guitars. I do a lot of like the handmade boutique ones. It's because I'm a snob.
We're a little more progressive and ahead of the curve here in San Francisco.
Now these Legator guitars have caught some flack in the recent past for their quality control, and I was actually advised against getting one, but I decided to go ahead and pull the trigger on it anyway because I figured it would be cool to just do an honest review of it on this channel. And we'll talk about what some of those detractions were from other reviews in the past as we go, but first let's look at the specs of this guitar. The Legator Ninja has a set-through 5-piece Wenge maple neck. It's 25.5-inch scale with a 16-inch radius ebony fingerboard. There are abalone offset dot inlays and illuminlay side dots, which glow in the dark. 24 medium jumbo stainless steel frets. The body is mahogany with a solid California Buckeye burl top. The pickups are Fishman Fluence Moderns with the push-pull voice selection and a 3-way blade. There's also that kill switch that you saw with a cool light on it. It has an original Floyd Rose tremolo with Legator Pro locking tuners, and they call the finish Amethyst and Ruby. How well is this built, and does it use high-quality parts? When we talk about construction, we're looking at things like the quality of the tuners. Are they tight? Is there a lot of slippage? We're looking at the quality of volume and the pickup switching pots. Are they dirty, noisy, or are they smooth and clean? And we're looking at stuff like the fret dressing. Do the frets stick out over the edges when you play and have that kind of uncomfortable scraping against your fingers? And that fret dressing issue was one that was brought up in the video that I referred to earlier when I was warned against getting one of them. And I have to say that I don't really notice a problem with these. There's maybe a slight bit of need to shave them that I'll have my techs do when they get here, but as far as guitars in this class goes, I would say they really cleaned that up. And I don't know if that's because this is a more recent model, I got this in 2021, or maybe the place where I bought it from does their own kind of internal QC before selling guitars. As far as the tuning stability goes, I've moved it from very dry weather in California across to the East Coast here in very humid weather and through some pretty big temperature changes. It stayed stable. I didn't have to have any changes done to the neck. I didn't have any intonation problems with this. I do find myself chasing the tuning a little bit, but that probably has more to do with the fact that it's got a Floyd Rose in it and I don't use the locking nut because I'm not the kind of guy that uses the whammy bar very heavily. So, you know, with the Floyd Rose, it's a love it or hate it kind of thing. I don't know if it would stay in tune a little bit more as I play it if I use the locking nuts down here, so I'm going to give that one kind of a half of a pass. I should say that part of that intonation has probably got to do with the 5-piece neck, which you saw in some of the pictures there. When you bind necks like this with multiple pieces, they tend to be more stable and work through different temperature changes over time. But top to bottom, I would say it's a solid entry in a factory class type of guitar like this. We're not really talking about a boutique PRS private stock type of thing where you're looking at every little detail like it's a Rolls Royce. And for this, I'll give it a score of 7 out of 10. Playability is one area where you can really feel the difference from a cheap or an expensive guitar through the mid-range and onto the high-end boutique guitars. Now, of course, we all have different tastes on what we like for playability on a guitar. None of us want to see the action way up off the fretboard, but some people like a snappier response. I happen to be on the side of liking a guitar that plays real buttery. You can find anything on YouTube. This guitar falls somewhere in the middle of the spectrum of what I like. Of course, it's a higher end guitar, so the action's pretty good, but I do feel like I have to muscle it a bit to get what I want out of it. I like the cutaway here and the contours. They're very comfortable. It's comfortable against my body, and it's easy to get my hand in there. There's a nice feel when you have a guitar that's not a bolt-on neck that I like as well. But I can say it definitely feels like a factory-built guitar as opposed to a handmade one, and which it is, of course. But we're talking about $1,800 here, and for other factory guitars that are more in the $1,000 price range, like the Schecter I have hanging up back there, or the PRS SE up I have over there, I feel like they play a little bit better than this does at less of a price. I'm not saying it plays bad by any means, and if you like a stiffer, heavier type of playing guitar, it'll be better for you, but for my tastes, it's outshined by guitars that are less expensive. Another thing I want to mention here is that I think a part of the price point on this guitar is the aesthetic of it. And you can see in the pictures and in the video I shot in the sunlight outside, it's a very, very cool top. It's a unique look to it. But when you get it in like normal room lighting, I have like obviously a very bright light so I can shoot with the camera here and you can see me clearly. But in normal room lighting, you can not make out a lot of the detail. You almost can't tell if there's any purple in it. The glow in the dark side dots are cool though. So my score for playability here is 6 out of 10. The sound palette on this guitar is all about these Fishman-influenced modern pickups, and if you know much about pickups, you know that every set, even from the same manufacturer, can sound a little bit different. Not so with these Fishmans. The way they're made, every one of them sounds pretty much exactly the same. And of course, this guitar has as part of the sound palette this cut switch over here, the thing that made the cool light I talked about in the beginning. And you heard that in the beginning video there where I played the lead and I hit the cut switch at one part of it. Now that was a real metal example of sounds. I want to switch over to something that's a little bit more like edge of breakup here, which is how I feel like you can really get the tone of pickups and the feel for what a guitar sounds like. Oh, and before I start, for you Axe-Fx users out there, all the sounds from the beginning video and what you're about to hear here, I have in a preset that I uploaded to the Axe Exchange. Sounds pretty cool, but I think you can hear that the palette of tones is a little bit limited, the range between the sounds. For me, if you're going to have pickups with two voices, which would usually be like a double coil pickup that you split, I like the difference between the tones to be very distinct and to cover a wider palette or range of sounds. And with Fishman's here, it more feels like when you hit the switch or you push-pull it, that it adds a little bit of lower mid or removes it depending which direction you're going in. It's not really a different sound, but a bit of a different EQ. So as far as the overall sound goes, for the range of the palette, I give this a 6 out of 10. So there's my review. It seems they've cleaned up the quality control issues, but I think for the price point of around $1,800 here, this guitar is leaning on the unique aesthetic and maybe the cut switch and Floyd Rose type of thing a little bit. In my opinion, in this range or for factory type guitars, you can do a little bit better for less money. I wouldn't steer anyone away from these if they really love the look of it, but I would definitely suggest you check out stuff from ESP, Schecter, and maybe like the PRS SE line. And as always, I hope this was helpful. If you're in the market for a guitar and want to check these things out, and maybe it'll save you some money or help you make a choice. And if you have any further questions or comments, please leave them below. I get back to everybody as soon as I can. Until next time, guys, keep making great music. Hey friends, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. It makes the whole world better.